They used a childish, cartoonish mechanism built into the minds of many people to trigger this. I mean, remember how Anthony Fauci became Anthony Fauci to all of us in the public who didn't know who he was, right? He was the guy who had his head in his hands next to Trump, listening to, you know, Trump be unscientific at the podium. Now it happens, Trump got some stuff right and he got some stuff wrong. But the fact is, Anthony Fauci was visually, in the minds of people, the mental alternative to Trump, which is why he was imbued with effectively a divine sense of truth about him, which has...
Well, no, and it was also... As it turns out, as you just said, Trump got some stuff right and he got some stuff wrong. As COVID was emerging in that spring of 2020, and Trump was being his usual blustering, off-the-cuff, pain-in-the-ass, bombast, it was really easy to think, oh my God, if only we had someone who knew what they were doing. And you could see some of the stuff that he was just getting wrong, and some of the stuff's like, no, don't, could you not, right? And so to have someone who appeared to have, you know, the imprimatur of science and of history and of sobriety and of, you know, just he was there on his own recognizance and he knew what he was doing, to be in that sort of faceplant, like, oh, I'm so dismayed to be working for this man. It felt like the antidote. And because it was easy for many people to think, if not for Trump, we'd have this thing kicked. We'd know what to do and this would be over already. Obviously, it was going to be Fauci was the answer.
Right.
Yeah.
And that visual impression of the sober, scientific dweeby but highly competent alternative to the bombast who reads stuff on the internet and can't keep it to himself, right? That thing was architected. And it, you know, just so happens that the sober alternative happened to be a guy, one of a tiny number of people central to the process of bypassing the gain of function research ban and offshoring the work to the very lab that likely released this thing, right? It's almost beyond, it's so preposterous, it's almost beyond plausible.
No, you would have taken a few of those characteristics out of the screenplay because it would have been beyond.
It's too much. It's too cartoonish.
It's too much.
But, I mean, actually, can we play the video of Anthony Fauci? We're watching a video of Anthony Fauci earlier this week at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center in Seattle, speaking kind of off the cuff. It's interesting.
It's called the Fauci effect, which is sort of like, you know, trust me, I don't get excited about that. I mean, it's nice, but I mean, people go to medical school now. People are interested in science. Not because of me, because most people don't know me, who I am. My friends know me, my wife knows me, but people don't know me. It's what I symbolize. And what I symbolize in an era of the normalization of untruths and lies and all the things you're seeing going on in society from January 6th to everything else that goes on, people, the craving for consistency, for integrity, for truth, and for people caring about people.
Anthony Fauci, and I will not imitate him for
marital reasons.
For marital reasons, because I don't know if what he's got is contagious. But anyway,
I just would never be able to look at you the same way.
What he effectively says with obvious glee, delight, pride, all of the, you know, I don't know how many sins are involved, but I
don't think there's any gluttony.
I'm sure there is, but anyway.
Trim.
Oh, the dude, you know, he's diminutive, but he cuts a fine figure. But anyway.
What does the man say?
He says that apparently there's something dubbed the Fauci effect. So far as I can tell, he dubbed it the Fauci effect. Sure. But something called the Fauci effect, in which people are, they are applying to medical school because his scientific, competent, blah, blah, blah modality has inspired them to take up medicine by his model or something like this. Which
because he says, I, Fauci, symbolize integrity and truth.
Not to me, he doesn't.
Well, I just looked up the little blurb. What actually does he say? The Fauci effect, more and more people going to medical school, he claims, is because he symbolizes integrity and truth. Especially, and I think, I'm paraphrasing here, in this era of misinformation, he invokes January 6th.
He invokes a range of things from January 6th to whatever.
It's true. Yeah. My God, really, it's 52 seconds.
It's quite a thing.
52 seconds, and he really crams a lot in there.
It's the equal of that one where he said that he was science.
Yeah.
And it's so much the man, the wizard behind the curtain. But anyway, point being, this is the structure that decapitated the messy thing that we used to have that figured out what was true medically speaking and what wasn't true and what to do about it.
Yeah.
They just supplanted the whole thing.
Yeah.
They got between your doctor and your pharmacist, something that is unprecedented, right? And they just started handing down these encyclicals that changed the behavior of our entire medical establishment. And anyway, I wanted to point out a couple things about this, right? So they're functioning in a religious modality. I would argue, tapped into the religion-shaped hole issue that is especially open for those people who are secular, right?
Which is going to be a higher number of people on the left, which is part of why this is going to be more effective.
High number of people, highly represented in science. But in any case, this is part and parcel of a radical shift, a radical revolution that is taking over the entirety of the West, right? What they've done is they have begun to hand down by fiat a description of the truth, right? Remember when they tried to tell us that the virus couldn't possibly have emerged from the laboratory in Wuhan? That was just a simple matter of, well, here's the truth, and we're handing it down. And
they're still doing that. There's a recent Christian Anderson paper that we referenced a week or two ago. Yeah, they're on that. They're also, sorry, I know you're on a roll here, but the CDC guideline, the new CDC guidelines also kind of obscure the fact that now, natural immunity is real, and it's just as good as vaccine-induced immunity. It may last longer.
Right.
What? Hello again? What did you say? Because weren't we fighting over this? That scientists were being scoffed at for claiming that natural immunity could possibly be a real thing. That having had COVID, you might actually have immunity, and therefore not have to submit to the also formulated in a lab version of the immunity.
Right.
That came via a syringe.
And in fact, you have the oracle from on high handing down factual claims like natural immunity does in no way obviate the need for COVID vaccination. You have it participating with social media labeling things that are true as false.
Right.
You have the Department of Homeland Security declaring 3 kinds of falseness terrorism, one of which literally involves truth, which is inconvenient for government and causes distrust of it, right? The whole thing is about, look, here are the beliefs you will now subscribe to. Their relationship to reality is not the point, and anybody who feels an obligation to reality is about to out themselves because they're going to be forced to mouth certain truths that are simply false, right? The labels are going to be reversed, right? This is all a matter of a cult inflicting its new belief system all of a sudden, and it is going after truth. That is to say, there is no major journalistic establishment that is independent of this. The university system itself is mouthing the shibboleths, right? History is being rewritten by the same oracle-based mechanism, right? The 1619 Project, etc. We are simply taking a version of history that serves an ideology and we are imposing it over actual history. We have the guilt and innocence of people being a matter of encyclical as well, right? So the raid on Mar-a-Lago is supposedly justified by the fact that this is the most law-breaking president in history. That's why we get to go after people the way, you know, developing countries used to, you know, political factions used to go after each other. Really, what's he been convicted of, right? And even just the goodness and badness of people, right? Mm-hmm. And this is another place where the rubber meets the road. Human beings, because we have been forged by lineage against lineage competition, we are wired for that. Just the same way we are wired for religion, we are wired to want to know who's on the team and who isn't on the team. This is something that the West did the best job yet of getting past and is now being uninvented. We have returned to a place where we're supposed to figure out, oh, who are the good people and who are the people who are my enemy, right? We are not supposed to say we are all Americans, for example, right? And we are united by that, even over if we differ over policy and what the wise direction to go would be. We are Americans first, right? No. The question is who's good and who's bad, right? And, you know, yeah, sometimes that's a question of, you know, who's Jewish. In this case, it could be a question of who's vaccinated, right? But the point is these things are all being handed down by the same mechanism, which is being imposed over the superior mechanism that the West, yes, it never completed the project, but the West innovated and developed, in which we had another method for figuring this stuff out, like falsification, right? Like, you know, collaborating on a project even if we disagree over the particulars, right? So we are being returned to a previous world without the benefit of the narrative structure or ideology having passed through the test of time and at least being valid in some sense, right? It's valid in no sense. It is, in fact, in direct conflict with reality in a way that causes people who follow it to do very rapid self-harm, right? So this is, I think this is becoming really clear. And if you are shocked by the attack on Salman Rushdie, you should be equally shocked that a different flavor of the same is taking over Western civilization and replacing all of the mechanisms that have stood the test of time. The only alternative we have to that team-based modality, that is being replaced by something in which some oracle is going to decide what you need to do, what you need to think, who you need to attack. And the fact is, there's no future in this. There's no future. We cannot play those games with the kind of weaponry at our disposal. We cannot play those games with the number of people on the planet. We cannot play those games with the amount of industrial power at our disposal. This is just a fatal proposal.